Hi, I'm Carolyn Giardino. Welcome to the Hollywood Reporter Shortcuts. I'm here with Robert Richardson, Roger Deakins, and Caleb Deschanel. Welcome. Let's begin to talk about your movies and the directors that you work with. Bob, for you, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was your sixth collaboration with Quentin Tarantino. Had the two of you collaborate on the look for this film?
We went through a conversation about a series of things that were important to him, such as previous television series, because it's based on television actors primarily. And we studied Maverick, Lancer, which is a part of the movie. We went through a series of others, Alias, Smith & Jones, Bush Cassidy, Sundance Kid, which is not a television sequence, but Alias, Smith & Jones was based upon that, and a slew of other films. And that's sort of how we found the basis of what we wanted for a look of the movie. He wanted a retro feel with a slight modern twist.
Okay. And Roger, you had two films this year, 1917 and The Goldfinch. In the case of 1917, you reteamed with Sam Mendes and you shot the film to look as if it was one continuous take, to have a real-time experience. Would you talk about how you approached that cinematography?
With fear and trepidation, really. The first line in the script when I first read it was, "This is conceived as a single take movie," and I'm really? So I was quite kind of nervous about that. And I was a bit concerned it was a gimmick, but it's not, because it's a real-time experience. How did we approach it? Well,
Rehearsals.
doing that kind of thing is so much down to rehearsals, because you can't build a set until you know how long, this is trenches and different things. These characters are always moving, so you can't build it until you know how long they're gonna walk for and when the next piece of action is gonna happen. So it was quite a long prep process, really, working these things out, and then, figuring out technically, what equipment to use and how to do each section, because quite a lot of them demanded different kinds of equipment, yeah.
Sure. And Caleb, in your case for The Lion King, when you worked with Jon Favreau, this was a virtual production.
Right.
A very unique setup. Tell us about shooting in that.
Well, I met with John and he told me about the film, and I was sort of nervous about it because I really had no interest in working in virtual reality and with computers and everything else. And he assured me that he was interested in me shooting it because of all my vast experience shooting live action movies and making things feel realistic. And then I met with Rob Legato, the visual effects supervisor, and he took me downtown to this company called Magnopus, and they had these tools that were sort of set up with some sort of leftover animals from Jungle Book, and we were able to set up some shots. And I suddenly realized that even though I'd be in virtual reality, I would be setting up the camera just the way I would in real life. And I started to get excited about it, and we talked about it having kind of a documentary feel and maybe be long lens. And then we went to Africa for a couple of weeks, and we took along a 65 millimeter digital camera. And we did a lot of filming, and it was at that point that I suddenly realized that we didn't need long lenses because animals actually came very close to us, and we started to develop some ideas, and we looked at a lot of the modern documentaries like, Planet Earth 2 and some of the other films like that. And John was right. It was really like making a live action movie. So it was really fun. I really enjoyed working with him and Rob and everybody on the movie.
Did you have a most memorable day on the set?
Oh, they were all memorable days. I mean, I think the most memorable day was when we started we had something called Optitrax, and we could use the Steadicam on the stage, which was maybe 25 foot by 25 foot. But we were doing a scene which was, Wimoweh, with the character singing this song, and it was actually very long in terms of movement. It was probably 100 yards long, and we could not. If we multiplied the Steadicam to be that far within the space of 25 feet, it wasn't working. And then, we're thinking about it like, well, wait a second, what if we hook up the floor to the dolly? And we have the dolly on the slope, which is what the hillside was where they were singing. So we ended up with the dolly grip dollying along with the whole platform of the Steadicam, moving down the hill so he could move along with the animals. And then you ended up having to create this incredible choreography. It was like a dance between, Henry Turrell, who was our Steadicam operator, and the dolly grip, who was, would say, no, I'll do that move. You just slow down here, and then I can get closer to the animals here. And it was really fun.
Most memorable day on set. What about the two of you?
Well, they're all memorable. The thing is, we have to shoot everything in cloud, because otherwise there's no way you can match from shot to shot. And that's the feel we wanted anyway. I was so lucky with the weather. We had 2 days we didn't get cloud at all day, but we just rehearsed the hell out of it. And then we caught up the next day, but every day we got cloud.
Bob, tell us about one of your favorites.
I love, most of my days in the movie are pretty special, very similar. I think one of the most memorable for me was shooting the Playboy Mansion, because there was a huge amount of energy within the scene. Margot's movement and the dance and the colors and just the freedom. That was pretty immense for me that day.
Would you talk about working with your production designers?
A production designer is what we all need, cinematographers, and I have a strong belief that the better the production designer is, the better our work will be, because they help propel and help aid us in how we grade our scenes, in terms of how we light our scenes, how they're actually able to be staged. And I was extraordinarily fortunate working with Barbara Ling on this particular film. She knew LA extremely well. She was there in the 60s. She captured it perfectly along with Quentin's memories. They just worked in perfect sync. And I do believe production designers are absolutely vital to cinematographers in the creation of great work.
Yeah, they really determine what we're able to film. And so, on The Lion King, James Shinnon was the production designer, and you may look at the movie and go, well, what's the production design? But everything in that movie, where the watering hole is, where the elephant graveyard is, the cave that Scar is in has 2 openings, so we could light it in particular ways and create the shadow of Scar moving in and out of light. And it was really wonderful to work with someone like him.
You have such a wide variety of tools available to you to tell your stories now. What do you think of the state of stories? Is there a range of scripts available to you?
I'm about to hit into another film called, it's based on Venom. It's the second Venom with Tom Hardy. But it's a character that doesn't exist, his secondary character. So a lot of it's going to be visual effects in terms of trying to determine how they interact. And it's something I've never done. This is the first time for me doing something this interactive between characters.
Something I wanted to talk about also is this year the American Society of Cinematographers is celebrating its centennial, and the 3 of you hold the distinction of having received its Lifetime Achievement Award.
Is that true?
Would you share your thoughts on the state of your art?
Well, I think it's evolving very quickly now. I mean, when you go see foreign language films, in the past, when, films arrived from a really small, obscure country, they were usually shot in 16 millimeter and the quality wasn't that good. But with the evolution of digital technology, it's really remarkable that films from the most obscure place in the world, the quality has really gone up quite a lot. And I think that's going to continue to evolve. And, I think we'll be surprised by the number of wonderful filmmakers that come out in the future who otherwise would not have had the chance to make films. So.
With entirely new perspectives on aesthetic, because many people are shooting and framing off of iPhones or whatever their methodology is. They're not looking through eyepieces. It's changing the way they compose. There's this entire change of language is going to take more and more apart, I think, in the future that is evident now when I watch and work with people that operate and they come in on second camera and they don't want the eyepiece. They want the monitor. And I say, let's put the eyepiece back on. Keep the monitor.
You're so old-fashioned, Bob.
I am old-fashioned. But I do believe that the idea of what happens with that eyepiece is one eye closes and the other eye is focused on what you're aiming at. If you have both eyes available to you, you're scanning a world. And it's very difficult to put your concentration into the very thing you're supposed to be shooting and be able to see in close contact what an actor is giving back to you. So for me, I understand when I'm down here and you want this, and with the digital world, we've been given that access in a brand new way, which you couldn't really do in the film world as easily. So I think there are changes, and some of them are positive, some of them are negative.
Would each of you share a lesson that you learned early in your career that stuck with you?
I have something.
Okay.
When I was doing The Black Stallion, we were in Toronto, and I was working with Carol Ballard. And even though I knew Carol to be a wonderful director, and I really loved working with him, my crew was sort of getting this feeling that he was making this stupid children's movie that was just going to be worthless and everything. And it was like trying to keep my crew going. And I was really ready to just quit the movie at a certain point because of all the strangeness of carrying everybody to, no, he's a great director, it's going to be a wonderful movie. And I remember complaining to, the sound man, who was sort of an old-time New York sound man who had been brought up to do the film. And he says, you young kids, you don't know anything about making movies. You all think it's about making art. It's not about making art. It's starting a movie and getting through to the end and finishing it. That's when you find out if it's art or not. And it's something that's always stayed with me, that you just have to get every day done and not let anything deter you. And I think it's served well,
Interesting. Bob?
I was shooting a shot, Tommy Lee Jones walking down. It was during Natural Born Killers. And as I made the pan to push them into a corridor inside a prison, I ran into a cell. And the camera smashed up against my eye, and this golf ball of blood popped up. And, I couldn't see. And I looked over, and Oliver was looking at me like, well, there goes our day. I turned to the doctor, and I said, lance it now. And they cut it, butterflied it, and we just kept shooting. What that taught me was that just continuing to give all you can whenever you can, that's an extreme example of what you have to do. But I think in our lives, we have to be devoted to the art at a very high level. And if that requires that, or requires anything to be able to continue, you have to continue and persevere.
Roger?
Oh, I got no story like that. I think that no, hell no. I shot in 1984 with Richard Burton, and I remember sitting with him one lunchtime just chatting, and I realized he said as much how nervous he was on the shoot, because he said we were all so young. And I was so nervous. It was my first kind of biggish film. And working with him, I was just like, whoa, I was so nervous. And then I realized they're all nervous. Everybody's nervous. It's not just me. The actors are nervous. Whoever they are, it doesn't matter. They're still nervous. If you care about your job, you're nervous, I think, anyway.
Same way.
Well said. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
Pleasure.
Thank you.